Our theme species gets its name from where it can be found during much of its juvenile life, and as adults, these fish become double-digit refoyers.
This week's Florida Insider Fishing Report is all about one of our favorite coastal species, the mangrove snapper, and it starts right now.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Well, we're glad to see you all back on the Florida Insider Fishing Report. I have Captain Jim Ross again with me this week, filling in for Rick, and we hope everyone had a wonderful 4th of July holiday weekend. Indeed. But you know what? Indeed. This week, we are on to mangrove snappers, right, Jim?
Or as Rick Murphy would say, snappers.
I can't. I can't pronounce it the way he does. I've been trying for years.
I can't hear it any other way. Now that I've heard Rick say it that way, I can't hear it any other way anymore. It's just, you can't unhear that.
I know. All right, well, before we get to our first captain, let's check in with Dave at the workbench. Dave, you have all your fingers and toes and all, you know.
I didn't blow everything.
You didn't blow everything.
I kept them all. But you guys weren't going high enough. It's red snapper!
Snapper!
You got to get that high.
There we go.
Snapper thing working. But we're going to be talking about the Jekyll and Hyde of the snapper world.
Very, very nice. All right, the Front Runner Boats Northeast region is first up with Captain Tommy Derringer. Tommy, where are the mangoes at?
Hey, Brie, we like to do the old mango tango here in the Front Runner Boats Northeast region. It's definitely a favorite fish here for inshore and offshore anglers, but really the offshore stuff is what's happening right now. You know, we've got some of the hugest mangrove snapper around here in our region. We like to call them mangoes. You know, you've heard me talk about those big mangoes and some mutton snappers quite a few times over the past few weeks. You know, those fish are spawning and they tend to get fired up this time of year. I spoke to a couple of our offshore snapper specialists. They tell me that the bite's been pretty dang good this week. You know, we just had a full moon and it might slow down just a little bit, but over the next few weeks as we get to that next new moon, they're going to get fired up again. You typically find those mangoes on the bigger ledges in about 100, maybe 120 feet on out to about 140 feet of water. Now, if you're fishing on the bottom, you can use a variety of live and dead baits. But one fun and really effective way to catch those fish is, and I talk about this a lot, is to chum them up to the surface. Now, when they spawn around these full and new moons from about May through most of the summer, you can start chumming them up to the top. Use chunked sardines, pogies, cut bonita, really any kind of dead or cut baits. You're going to want to downsize your gear to like a 20 or 30 pound fluorocarbon leader. Use a small 2, maybe 3-aught circle hook. Then you can just float a chunk of that chum, put it on your hook and float it back with the chum behind the boat. Now the mangoes on the inshore side of things, they just started to show up over the last week or so. And just about any dock or any kind of bigger structure from about Palm Coast all the way up here to St. Augustine, even into Jacksonville, those are going to hold some decent sized keeper inshore snappers. Live shrimp, or even better, a little finger mullet on a small circle hook or a jig head is the way to go for those inshore snapper. And I've got a photo here. Captain Jason Hodges, he's one of our mangrove snapper experts. He sent me this picture of one of his happy clients with a Mondo mango.
Yeah,
I guess we can call it snapper.
I love
snapper.
those. I love that his shorts and that mango. Well, both of them just look good. Well, tell us about what else is going on offshore, right, Tommy.
Jim, the cobia, man. I thought I'd give the kingfish a little break this week, although they are still chewing, and talk about the cobia that have been around on the nearshore reefs. There's quite a few keeper-sized cobia that have been showing up in the spread for the kingfish guys, you know, while they're trolling around on just about all the nearshore reefs and wrecks throughout the region. You know, while that's always a welcome bycatch while you're kingfishing, you can get over those structures and chum those cobia up a little bit. Grab a bunch of pogies and either live chum, or you can cut them up, either way, and then just have a live bait or a jig ready, and you might run into some of those nice cobia. They're going to swim up around the boat, just have a rod ready. Now moving inshore, guys, both the heat and the redfish bite have turned on this week, and man, is it hot out there. Make sure you stay hydrated. So get out early or late in the day. That's going to be your best bet at getting on a good bite. Up on the flats in the early AM, you know, we've been tossing the Berkeley Jaywalker topwater plug at first light. And then once it starts to warm up a little bit, switch to either a live or a cut mullet. Now there's also good numbers of bull redfish showing up at the inlets and the bridges throughout the region. A halved blue crab or a cut mullet or ladyfish around the slack tides, that's the go-to for those bigger redfish. A lot of those redfish have been 35-inch plus, some really big ones, but there's some slot fish in there as well. And speaking of slot fish, I've got another picture here. This is Natalie with a nice slot redfish that she caught with me in St. Augustine. We were up real shallow when it was still a little cool out early in the morning. Now, also inshore, guys, Jim and I were talking about this before the show. The tarpon have really shown up this week with some big fish right along the beach. The pogies have been around finally pretty consistently from Jack's Beach all the way down through Flagler. And the tarpon are feeding in those pods, especially again early and then late in the day when it's cooler. Free lining or floating a live pogie around those pods, that's a surefire way to get some action. But you know what? There's a lot of sharks in there as well. You can kind of negate those sharks a little bit by tossing a lure like that R&R tackle line through swim bait. A big swim bait's going to work well for those fish. You can toss those things a mile, and the hookup ratio is really good with that line through technology that R&R has. Now, there's also some big tarpon at the inlets and at the bridges when the bait is coming through, when those schools of mullet are moving through. Again, free line a live pogie or a big mullet is going to be the go-to for those bridge fish. And I got one last picture here. Captain Jake Bates, he sent me this picture of my buddy Brad Davis and his son Bradford with a huge tarpon that they caught on the fly out of a pogie pod just off of Jacksonville Beach. He taped that one. I think it was like 158 pounds or something like that. It was a monster.
Man, that's a big
got the
fish,
shaka
Tommy.
going on.
Ooh,
I love
I'm telling
it.
you. Well, I tell you what, fantastic report. Way to start us off tonight. I'm going to take your strike zone hotspots for the Northeast region from here. Captain Tommy Derringer says inshore you want to look for tarpon at the inlets and along the beaches in those pogie pods, and look for those fish busting and rolling. And then offshore, mangrove snapper and mutton snapper. You want to start around 100 and go out to about 140 feet on those reefs, wrecks, and ledges throughout the region.
Mondo mangoes.
That's a big mango.
Yep.
And we get some really nice ones up in the north part of the state. So
we keep seeing them the last couple weeks. All right, well, coming up August 5th is the North Florida King of the Beach tournament sponsored by Front Runner Boats with over $350,000 in cash and prizes. The first place largest king, you ready? Wins a 26-foot front runner boat.
I'm in.
Let's go, Jim. Let's enter right now. For more information and to get registered, go to nfkingofthebeach.com. But you know what? It is time to see how the CASA VIEJA Southwest region gets the mangroves on the line. So let's see how Captain Ronnie Houston does that. Hey, Ronnie.
Well, Jim and Brie, it's always a pleasure being here. You know, the one good thing about the mangrove snapper is it can be targeted both on the inshore and offshore side here on the southwest coast of Florida. Now, on the offshore side, we want to look for the wrecks, the artificial reefs, the ledges, and areas of hard bottom. Now, you can chum them up to draw them towards the surface. And once you do that, you know, they're pretty smart fish. Your light line, your light leaders. You can drop back by catching them a flat lining. You can use bucktails. You can actually use lighter weight, or you can use bright-colored jig heads drop back with some small cut baits once they're chummed up. Now, on the inshore side, it's going to be a little different. Your docks, your rock piles, your passes, your down trees, your mangrove shorelines, just to name a few. But, you know, you can also chum for these fish in those areas. It's not necessarily required. You can figure them out, and they're already schooled up in some of these structure areas on the inshore side. Live shrimp, cut baits along with live pilchers will get the job done. And I've got a picture of an inshore bite with Captain Chris McCubbin for the mangrove snappers.
Oh, you guys got on them good that day.
So on the inshore side, the snooks. You know, the mixed reports from north to south, beaches and passes from Stump Pass to Sanibel, with big numbers right now along the beaches at the higher stages of the tide. But with the clean water, the fish can be spooky. I strongly suggest the residential docks anywhere from Redfish Pass to Gasparilla Pass. They're also holding good numbers, especially a lot of fish in the 35 to 40-inch range. Now, to the south in the Everglades backcountry, your feeder creeks, your wind-blown shorelines, points-foot current and wind blowing in the same direction as the current also works well with areas of deadwood. Now, up to the north, live pinfish and pilchards. To the north and to the south, a lot of artificials in the Everglades backcountry like prop baits, chugging lures, topwater walk the dog lures, and a variety of 4 to 5 inch soft plastic paddle tails or 5-inch jerk baits. And I've got another picture here of a nice snook with the season being closed, caught inshore with Captain Chris McCubbin. Now, on the offshore side, the cobias. Right now, Wiggins Pass, the Indian Key, mostly concentrating right now on wrecks and artificial reefs in the Collier County area. Now, some reports I've received, if you're one of the only boats in these areas, these fish are on top and can be sight casted too. But with several boats and pressure, the fish can become pressured and be caught midway down or on the bottom. Now, to catch these fish, a variety of baits can be used: live pinfish, live herring, live pilchers chummed to draw them up, or artificial eels, a variety of 4 to 7 inch swim baits, or large, bright-colored chugging lures. And I have a prime example of some cobias that were just recently caught. It was the only boat out fishing that wreck. They caught several that day fishing down to the south. Last species is going to be the red snappers. Bite remains strong still from Marco to Fort Myers Beach, in depths of 150 feet and beyond throughout the whole region. Now, there's going to be some days you really got to work for it, and there's going to be some days it's really easy. So have a variety of weights. Make sure you can stay on the bottom, and the bite happens quick, so you got to be ready. It can even happen on the drop, and you won't even feel it. So right now, alternating cut baits like squid, herring, and sardines. You can also use cut bonita. It's a little bit tougher, but also having a variety of live pinfish, live herring, or cigar minnows. You take the time to go out 150 feet and beyond. You want to have a variety of baits and being ready for anything that happens, slow-moving tides, quick-moving tides. So in order to get success, having a variety of baits is recommended. And I have a variety of fish mixed bag that were caught while fishing up to the north, while fishing with Captain Bo Johnson. Weather's still looking great for this weekend, as it has been the last couple weeks. Get out, catch you some fish.
Well, thanks, Ronnie. That's a fantastic report. And I'm going to take your Serenity Bait Company hotspots for the Southwest region from here. Captain Ronnie says, trout, Gasparilla Sound, Bull Bay, Turtle Bay, and Cape Hayes are all really good places to fish. You want to be in 3 to 6 feet of water and use some noise-making corks with soft plastics or soft plastic shrimps or paddle tails underneath them. And then offshore, permit. You want to go from Wiggins Pass to Indian Key. The wrecks, the towers, the artificial reefs out there are all holding fish right now. Look for that high relief structure and use a live crab.
Yep, catching those cobias look like a lot of fun. Those are some nice fish right there.
It's when you get on one of those bites and nobody's around, you're like, yes!
So excited. Okay, anglers, get ready for the Key West Marlin Tournament, July 19th through the 22nd. This fun-filled sport fishing event is limited to the first 75 boats and coincides with the 43rd annual Hemingway Days celebration in Key West. For more information and to get registered, go to keywestmarlin.com. All right, the Star Central West region is showing off some of their catches when we come back. But first, Dave Farrell is giving us an Academy Sports and Outdoors rigs and techniques show at the CCA workbench.
Yes, we're going to be talking about how to catch these little fish, and it's a great fish to catch for a young person, the mangrove snapper.
Yes, it is. My kids just caught one this weekend. Here we go. We'll be back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick, feel everything. Sirius XM Marine, weather, fish mapping, entertainment. Penn, let the battle begin. CASA VIEJA Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. Shallow Sport, legendary performance. And Daiquiri Deck, food, drinks, friends.
Well, it's time again for the Academy Sports and Outdoors rigs and techniques at the CCA workbench. And Dave, I mean, you've got a bunch of stuff here.
Well, I have a bunch of stuff because mangrove snapper eat a lot of stuff.
So that's the great thing about them.
Yeah, they're ferocious little fellas. You know, mangrove snapper is really a gray snapper. That's his real name. If you look him up in the book, he's a gray snapper, but we call him black snappers up in the Panhandle. We call them mango snappers and of course mangrove snapper, which you know he's not, but that's what we call them. And they're called that because they're found there quite a bit, especially the juveniles. You know, a lot of fish, offshore fish, spend their youth inshore and then they migrate offshore when they get bigger. Mangroves, no exception to that. They do that as well. But it seems to be they hang around inshore longer. They stay, you know, you don't catch many baby red snappers or mutton snappers. You catch a few muttons even more than you would an American red or anything. But they're not in there. They don't stay in there. They get a certain size and then they're bug out. Yep. But a mangrove snapper will hang around those docks and rock piles and jetties and whatnot until he's around 5 pounds. You know, they will stay from 1 to 5 pounds, or 0 pounds to 5 pounds. They'll be in that inshore water, and we can catch them on the docks and then the inlets, on the rocks and stuff. And they love to eat, so they really work they come to chum readily. You put some chum out, they come to it. So when you're out there trying to catch these smaller ones, if you find a good place where, let's say, two channels come together, there's a channel marker there, there's some flats around. If you stop at any of those places where those two channels come together, you put a chum bag down there, you will catch red snapper. And just wait a little while.
And of course, like you say, hard structures, but those undercut banks, those undercut mangrove islands.
Up inside those places.
Great places.
The little canals with mangroves lined where there's deep water available for them to run to real quick. Those are all great places. All these snappers, they eat little crustaceans. They're eating shrimp, little fish. So that's what we're going to use for bait. Usually, we're going to use little circle hooks like this. If you're fishing for those ones that are inshore and you're wanting to use bait, a little live shrimp on a little weighted hook like that, deadly. I mean, it's great for the kids too because they don't have to do anything. On that little circle hook, the weighted circle hook, he'll eat it and run off immediately and hook himself.
Yeah, or a circle hook and split shot if you can't find these.
Exactly. We got some Eagle Claw split shots out here. Use 20-pound.
And you were talking
fluorocarbon.
You were talking about using the fish bites because the fish bites are so tough for them. Once you get it on the hook, it's tough for them to get it off.
If you get them all chummed up on a bunch of chum and they're not eating the shrimp even, you put that little white piece.
Just cut those chunks into little pieces and
even float it under a popping cork sometimes. It'll keep it above, and they'll come up and eat that. But those are great things to catch those little ones.
And of course, you've got a tip.
Right, a bucktail jig.
On a bucktail for a little bit larger size fish.
They also, when they're in the shallow water, this is probably my favorite of all the lures to try to catch a mangrove snapper with, and that's the gotcha. Everything eats that gotcha, but the mangrove snappers really love it because it's crazy erratic, and they really love that. And if you can keep it out of the rocks and the stuff where they're living, then you're going to be able to catch them with that. And gold spoons.
I never would have thought of that, but that's a great.
Most of the ones that I've caught have been on the gotcha. Because I'm casting that gotcha whenever I'm around a jetty or anything like that because I'm trying to catch Spanish mackerels and whatnot, and I always end up catching mangrove snappers on it.
And then these two are the ones that I'm normally using.
Yes,
a paddle tail or a curly tail.
It's got it. They like the motion. They like it to be moving. They like it, fast. If you can move it fast, it gets a reaction strike from those little snapper.
Yeah.
They're getting ferocious on it, and any little shrimp imitator will work as well. Pompano jigs will work. I've caught them on pompano jigs when they're really fired up. So those little guys for the inshore, we're going to be using 15-pound test braid, maybe 10-pound test braid. 20-pound fluoro leader, even less, 10 to 15 if you got it.
They do see it sometimes.
Especially in the daytime. And the bigger fish offshore, you got to use fluorocarbon if you're going to fish in the day.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. At night, it doesn't make as much difference.
Now, I see you've just got some standard, fish finder type rigs here.
Yep, that's kind of like a Jupiter rig there.
Yeah.
That's mainly for big groupers, but if you're fishing at night for a mangrove snapper, which is, if I'm fishing for mangroves offshore, it's going to be usually at night. All snappers eat better at night. And you can like to use a single dropper loop when I'm targeting the mangrove snapper.
Versus a double for other species.
Exactly. Okay. Again, just because maybe they're a little spookier than other ones.
Yeah.
But if I'm fishing at night, again, that cranks way down. You're going to be, these fish are going to be between 5 and 10 pounds, even more. Up where in Central Florida we catch 12, 14 pounders at night.
You've been telling me these nighttime snapper that you catch are just giants.
Yeah, they are. They're big. And you can catch, you're going to use 80 to 100-pound test leader at night. Again, you can get away with doing that because we're fishing in a lot of places where they'll hang you up if they give you just a second.
Well, that was
around those ledges and everything.
That was a whole lot of information for 5 minutes, but we got it in there. So
just make sure you use a big circle hook, and let them eat. You got to let him eat until he starts tugging on it and pulling away. Then you just wind, and don't stop winding.
Well, Brie, where are we going next?
You rigged and techniqued over there, that's for sure. Lots of options for everyone. All right, Captain Paige in the StarTron Central West region has all the tips you're going to need, including Dave's, for your weekend on the water. So, Paige, let's hear what we're catching.
Come on now. I hope everybody had a good 4th of July. And that snapper, he fits right in with the 4th of July because the water temperatures are up. Some of the places it's up in the 90, 91 degrees, and we haven't had a lot of rain. So a good idea. Dave mentioned that you want to use that light fluorocarbon leader out in the Gulf as well as inshore. And that snapper, he is a couple times a year. He'll push in close to the inlets and passes and even up in the bays if there's places they can hold, which around the Skyway Bridge and the ship channel going up into Port Manatee, great snapper grounds and easy to get to with smaller boats like bay boats and flats boats and even john boats on some of these calm days we've been having. Now, it's a good idea to have a chum bag, a chum block, as well as many pilchards as you can catch with your cast net. And don't worry if some of them die, because you're going to take them and tear them up into small pieces and dole those out. And then I heard Dave mention this also. You want to get your boat set up and bring the snappers to you. And once you get a little chum slick going, a 1-0 or a 2-0 circle hook for the bigger fish, and then even down to a 1 or a number 2 that you can hide inside the chunk of bait. Now, offshore, a lot of guys use live shrimp on a jig head. That's a great pattern. Pretty much, when it's clear water like we're having, you're going to want to lighten up that leader, and you're going to want to shrink that hook. So he's an inshore and an offshore species, but with definitely the bigger fish coming from offshore, like my photo tonight. A couple really nice fish getting ready to hit the fillet tables at Marina Jack's, caught by Captain Rob Roberts of Tight Lines Charters out of Sarasota. And we might as well just stay on the snappers. The other snapper that's really sought after this summertime is the red snapper. You know, he's been open a couple weeks now, and guys have been getting to their fish because the weather's been good, Jimmy. I don't know about on your side, but over here we've had some really nice weather. Guys are getting out to 110 to 200 feet. Same kind of structure, same kind of bottom, maybe a little more hard bottom than the mangroves hold on. They like ledges and drop-offs, but those reds will get on that hard bottom, and sometimes you got to weed through the other fish to get the red biting. But once you get them going, live pinfish or cut bait seem to work just as good. And like I said, 110 to 200 feet of water. I got a photo tonight, staying with that fillet theme. Captain Tim Noe of Gulf Coast Offshore Ventures getting ready to fillet up some red snappers for his client.
Happy boys right there.
Yes, sir. Well, tell us about the tarpon, Jeff.
Tarpon fishing remains probably still the most popular game in town around here for your fishing guides, as well as your weekend warriors and your fly fishermen. The guides have been doing real well, not getting out too early, but staying with the fish throughout the day. Guys with towers have been doing a little better because they're able to see those darks of fish. They're not showing and coming up and rolling as much. They're staying down probably in that cooler water at the 12 to 15 feet range. And they're putting pinfish and thread fins on long leaders under corks, anywhere from 6 to 8, even 10 feet a leader if you can get that rodeo cast in. And then I've got reports from guys having a pretty good bite on the fly, throwing clousers, light-colored clousers, tan or white or even light chartreuse, up on the sandbars around New Pass and Big Pass, which are off Lido Key. And my tarpon photo tonight is of a bunch of happy anglers on 4th of July. They caught that tarpon with Captain Griffin Deans out of the Manatee River. And my last species, snook. Snook fishing probably remains the easiest species in our region, with fish in the bays around the oyster bars and grass flats, and in the passes and along the beaches. Pretty much anywhere there's structure, there's going to be snook. And the water's been so clear, you can pretty much see what size they are if you want to mess with them. Live pilchards, live pinfish, live grunts. For the bigger fish at night, live ladyfish and silver mullet will get the job done. And if you're into throwing lures, I've been having a lot of luck, Jimmy, with that Berkeley chrome pattern juke in the 90 series, which is the smaller one. And my last photo tonight is of Zach Bowling with one of many big snook he caught with my good friend, Big Fish Billy Ahlstrom of Suncoast Fishing Charters. And I need to mention the CCA Star Tournament is in full swing, and I believe there's some kind of mangrove snapper category in there.
You can,
So
you can definitely
go to
find somewhere to put it.
CCA.org and check it out and get signed up if you're already on it.
Thanks, Paige. That was a fantastic report. I'm going to take your daiquiri deck hotspots for the Central West region from here. Jeff says, lots of snook laying in the beach troughs from Venice Fishing Pier south to Stump Pass. You want to throw freeline pilchers, or you can fly cast some small white clousers parallel to the shore for those fish. And then offshore, mangrove snapper are holding on the ledges and hard bottom areas from 70 to about 110 feet of water. Live pilchers or shrimp are your best bet.
I had the mangrove snapper swoon onto in that first picture. Oh my gosh, those were good fish. All right, Jim, star tagged redfish are being recaptured all over the state by unregistered anglers.
Oh.
If you are not registered in the CCA Florida Star competition presented by Yamaha, you better snap to it and get registered, because all of the tagged redfish prizes, the Contender, Pathfinder, Deck Cat, Carolina Skiff, and the Sea-Doo Can-Am package are still available. Oh, he's cute. But it's not just tagged redfish or dolphin. It's any fish that you catch this summer can be entered in one of the 15 divisions for a shot at winning a share of $500,000 in prizes and scholarships. Registration is open and the competition does not end until September 4th. So go to the Star website, ccaflstar.com, for more information and to get registered.
Get registered. Don't be.
There's nothing to lose.
Don't have regret.
Nothing. All right, the FISHBITES East and YANMAR ASV Keys regions are schooling up next, so don't drift off too far. We'll be right back on the Florida Insider Fishing Report.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by POWERPOLE, Total Boat Control, Berkeley, your fish, our science, Bahio Sunglasses, blue light blocking, radically clear lenses, Sea Sucker, easy on, easy off, incredibly strong, Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventure, Kubota, together we do more, Front Runner Boats, performance-built offshore fishing boats made in the USA, and YANMAR ASV, a leader in compact equipment.
All right, Jim, we're getting a little bit of Rick today as he talks about some new features coming from Yamaha. So why don't we take a look?
Let's take a look.
Hey guys, I'm here at the boat show and with me is Lucy Berg, the product specialist for Yamaha. Lucy, why don't you tell me about this 2.8 liter 200?
Rick, this motor is a workhorse and it has a solid customer base. It's known for its reliability and wide application.
So what are some of the upgrades that we've done to this 200?
Yamaha is beginning to bring those bigger offshore motor convenience features and confidence features for our boaters down the family line. So we've added integrated steering. That steering system works directly with Helmmaster EX, plug and play.
We also, just like we did on the 4.2 liter last year, we have the double click trim and tilt. So you simply double click up and it'll trim all the way up, double click down and it trims all the way down. Lucy, what size shaft links does this 200 come in?
This comes in 25 and 20 inch.
So guys, if you're thinking about repowering maybe a small center console, or you actually want to upgrade your bay boat, the amount of weight savings that you're going to have here can really make a huge difference, because there is no shortcut in power when it comes to this. Let's talk a little bit about the warranty, Lucy. What do we got?
So this is your 3-year warranty from the time of warranty registration, but remember, you could always upgrade to an extra 2 years with our YES warranty, and that's done through your dealer.
So guys, if you have any questions, you can simply go to your local Yamaha dealer, or you can go to YamahaOutboards.com.
Well, thanks, Rick. It was good having you here.
It was.
All right, in the FISHBITES East region, mangrove snapper are the most consistent target on the reefs and wrecks. So let's get them chummed up with Captain Mike Holliday. Hi, Mike.
You know what? It's the truth. You pick a reef or wreck in my region, and there's mangrove snapper that are going to frequent it. Some of the better spots include the reef off Peck's Lake, the Sand Pile, the David T, the Halsey, and the 70-foot ledge from the 12A buoy all the way up to Bethel Shoals. We get a good push of mangrove snapper into the inlets from right about now all the way through September. And then there's the resident juvenile snapper you find inshore, around the seawalls and around the bridges. On the reefs and wrecks, you can chum them up with ground chum, glass minnows, or small pilchards, or even baitfish chunks, and then just drop a bait back into the chum line, or put one on a jig head or a sinker and drop it down to the bottom. The largest fish seem to come at night on whole sardines or thread fins or grunt plugs or even pinfish. And at the inlets, And inside, you want to fish those slack tides. When the current's not moving, the fish come out of the rocks to feed. With anything from a live shrimp to a small pilcher to sand perch, average snapper offshore is going to be like 1 to 4 pounds, but fish get up to 10 pounds or more. And inshore, it's more like 1 to 2 pounds. I got a real nice shot of an offshore snapper that Captain Rich DuBois on the Salty Day charter boat sent me. That mangrove that caught off the Halsey wreck in 75 feet of water, and it ate a live sardine. And as long as we're showing offshore pictures, let's stay offshore. The summer sailfish bite is red hot in my region. Last weekend during the One More Bite Sailfish Challenge, they released 100 fish in 2 days of fishing. The key is to run until you see fish, either fitting on the surface or free jumping, then set up baits in that area and make a drift. The fish are traveling in pods of 3 to 6 fish. So when you hook a fish, you want to keep your baits, out behind the boat. See if you can pick up a couple more. You can also reel in one of the baits and cast to the fish that's hooked, because a lot of times there's other fish that are dogging them. You can pull ballyhoo to cover water, but it seems like the best action is coming on live pilchards, thread fins, sardines, or goggle eyes, either slow trolled or deployed on a kite. Average sailfish right now is pretty big, man, like 40 to 50 pounds. I got a great photo that Captain Glenn Cameron on the Floridian charter boat out of Stewart sent me. That's a sail they caught in 130 feet of water off Hope Sound, and that fish ate a live threadfin.
What's he got going on inshore, Mike?
Yeah, the resident tarpon bite is starting to really pick up. Places like Big and Little Mud Creeks, Harbor Ridge in the St. Lucie River, the Crossroads in the Indian River, up in the Loxahatchee River. And then at the same time, the inlets have a lot of fish on them, particularly after dark when that boat traffic is minimal and the fish can be a little more aggressive. There was a big red minnow hatch early in the week on the full moon. Those minnows should push in onto the beaches over the next month, and when they do, the tarpon will be with them. Target the fish with live mullet, threadfins, pilchards, or crabs, or you can throw a black and purple or chartreuse colored bait fish fly. Average tarpon's going to be anywhere from 40 to 90 pounds. Ed Zayek sent me this cool tarpon photo of Chris Famioni with a tarpon they caught in Jensen Beach on a live crab. The other thing we got going, the catch and release snook action's really ramped up along the beaches, around the inlets, and around the piers in my region, and also at night around the bridges and docks when it's much cooler and the fish are a lot more active. Some of the better beaches include Jupiter Beach Park, Hope Sound Wildlife Refuge, Bob Graham Beach, and South Beach in Fort Pierce. Water's been pretty clear. You can sight fish them. In the surf, you can throw just about any colored saltwater assassin 4-inch sea shad and get bit. I kind of like the green hornet or gray ghost colors because they look like a pilcher, but really any color is going to work. Live pilchards, threadfins, croakers, and sand perch are good on the beaches as well, and also in the inlets. A live mullet or threadfin is going to be money on the bridges. Average snook is going to be like 12 to 15 pounds. Artemis shad's going to work on the bridges as well. I got a cool photo of Tyler Perret. He got this nice snook on fly at night on the Jensen Causeway. That fish ate a big polar minnow fly.
That's a beautiful fish for a bridge fish on fly. Well, tell us,
man, that's a big one.
Tell us about the bass report this week, Mike.
Well, it's been brutally hot, and that's just starting to get the topwater bite going in Headwaters Lake up in Fellsmere. I was talking to Captain Nathan Shellen of OkeechobeeBassFishing.com. He's saying you want to be on the water by sunup and throwing everything from a log or toad to a prop bait, any kind of topwater bait. The key is to work the bait super slow with long pauses. The fish are striking the lure when it's completely still and there's no rings around it from moving the lure. You can also work a Bass Assassin tap-out worm or a little tapper. It seems like the smaller profile baits are working as that sun gets up. You want to work the edges of the grass and the deeper areas of the reservoir. And this is also a good time to fish an alewife or smoke and shad colored vapor shad. Rig it on that double bait donkey rig with a 1/4 ounce jig heads on them and work it along the edges of the deeper holes. Live shiners are catching a lot of big fish right now, as is flipping, but the flipping bite has been kind of hit or miss. Average bass on Headwaters 2 to 4 pounds, but they're catching them up to 9 pounds still, particularly on shiners right now.
That's a great report, Mike, and thanks. Really appreciate it. We're going to take your TNH hotspots, TNH Marine hotspots for here. Captain Mike says, inshore, whiting and croaker in the surf at Normandy Beach. Get your fish bites out. The Easy Flea is working good. Live sand fleas are also working. Put those on a double surf rig. And then offshore, mutton snapper on the Lorraine Tower ledge after dark. Use live or dead sardines or cigar minos.
Minos?
A little more Rick just slipped in the show.
Wow, actually that's me. He stole that from me. I've been saying minos for like 10 years. All right, well, we're always talking about snapper in the YANMAR ASP Keys region, it seems. So let's see what Captain Sarah Stanzik has to say about the mangrove bite. Hi, Sarah.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Good, good.
Everybody have a good 4th?
We sure did.
Too good. 2 long 4 days of the 4th celebrations.
Yeah, it was a crazy long weekend. But the weather down here in the Keys was gorgeous. So many people went fishing. It was a great fishing weekend. Hot, though. I saw the heat index off Marathon today was 114 degrees. Like, that is crazy.
Man.
But anyway, put your sunscreen on, grab your hat, take an air conditioner with you, go out and try to catch some mangrove snappers. And they're everywhere. They're really fun to bend the rod on, especially for kids and families. Huge bonus, they're really good to eat, like excellent white, flaky meat. It's one of my top 3 favorite fish to eat. I love mangrove snapper. They're easy setup for tackle, just like 20-pound leader with a 1/4 ounce jig head and a live shrimp. That's like basic setup here in the Keys. You'll be hooked into mangroves all day long with that. I like catching them, especially because for their size. I mean, we don't catch the really huge ones like you guys do up north more, but we'll catch a couple, a 1 or 2 pounder, and they make really good runs, and they'll pull drag, and it's exciting. Like, it's fun. So for not being a big fish, they do a little run and they make you work for it a little bit. But here's a happy, smiling kid, little Julian, and he caught that keeper mangrove off the shoreline.
That's awesome.
Very nice.
We let it go though. Anyway,
Well, tell us
moving
about
back
the snook.
to inshore. We're going to talk about snook. The snook fight's been good, but again, it's an early morning thing before the heat comes. So get out there early. You want to target snook around the mangrove islands, creeks, jetties, like structure is where you'll find snook hiding under things, potholes and stuff like that. Live pilchards are the preferred bait, but they will eat a live shrimp too, as well as artificials. You'll definitely know when a snook hits your bait. They have a really good bite. They're hard, and they fight good. They jump. They shake their heads. Another just fun all-around fish to catch. So here's a cool underwater shot of a snook being released.
That is a cool shot.
That is. I like it.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about the yellowtail snapper fishing.
Yellowtail's been decent. It's kind of hit or miss. I said it was good, but the past few days it slowed down a little bit. We've just had such calm, beautiful weather. It's like glass and the ocean's crystal clear, and that can kind of make yellowtailing harder. Just use a lot of chum and sand is to make up for how nice the weather is. You just got to make the water dirty. So you want to anchor at 60 to 90 feet of water, lots of chum and oats and sand off the back of your boat. Look for good. The water flow's been crazy. Our current here has been ripping the past couple of days. So the flow isn't the problem. It's just really clear water so the fish can see everything. So use your fluorocarbon leader, small little jig head, and piece of cut up bait like shrimp or ballyhoo. Or you can use a live pilchard for a big yellowtail, but those little pieces of bait on those jig heads and just drift it back in your chum slick, like bail open. Be patient, drift it way, way back there, and hopefully it'll take off after a few minutes. But sometimes you just got to sit there and wait with your bail open and really get it far away from your boat. They're really fun to catch on light spinning gear, like the Penn battle reel. And again, one of my favorite eating fish with mangroves and yellowtails, so good stuff.
And
moving even further offshore, we've had mahi fishing has been okay. It's kind of, again, hit or miss for the mahi this year. I saw a big bucket full of them at the marina today, though. The boats did good today. So it's like one day they're here, and the next day they kind of move around. And again, if you go one day and you don't really find them, go the next day because they'll probably be there. It's just one of those summers. So you want to head offshore, look for the weed lines, look for debris floating, look for birds diving down, just signs of life. Have a variety of cut bait, live bait, all bait options because they're moody. Sometimes they'll eat a piece of cut bait and you throw a live pilchard at it, they won't even look at it. So it's it just depends on their mood. Great fish to eat, fun to fight, beautiful colors for taking pictures. They jump out of the water a lot. Big schools of them will come up, and they're just a really cool fish to target and fun to catch. You can see them and cast at them. It's kind of sight fishing a lot of times. So good fish. Here's a nice rack full of mahi caught aboard Kalex.
Well, it looks like they got on them. Sarah,
yeah.
real quick, last month there was a little bit of a trouble getting some shrimp for some of the bait shops down there. Is that been kind of a problem again this month as well, or is that resolved itself?
I think it's resolved. We haven't had any issues at Bud Mary's lately getting shrimp. they're on the smaller side this time of year. It's so hot; they're just catching like smaller size ones. But I mean, I dipped some shrimp out of the tank yesterday, and they were like decent, I thought, and they were live and they looked good. So I did hear that they had a little issue last month, but I think it's good to go now.
Yeah, well, that's a great thing because if you need live bait,
you gotta have live
you
shrimp.
gotta have.
Very
it.
important.
Well, thanks a lot, Sarah. We appreciate that, and I'm going to take your shallow sports boats hotspot for the Keys region from here. Sarah says, inshore, there's a good snook bite in the backcountry. Live pilchards are the best bait if you want to target them on the structures like down trees, creeks, and mangrove islands. And then offshore, mutton snapper. Once again, it's been hot, but get out there to 100 to 200 feet of water and look for them on the bottom structure. Use pilchards, ballyhoo, or pinfish on a 5/0 circle hook and about a 20 to 30 foot long leader. And you need about a pound of weight, she says, because that current's been so strong.
Right.
Can't get down with just 8 ounces anymore. It takes a whole pound to get down now.
Yeah, and also offshore, I think it's just been the year of the moody mahi.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know what it is, but
when I was down there, we had them just swim by the boat and look at. They throw stuff at them and they're like, yeah, whatever.
I'm good. I'm not gonna bite today. All right. Well, per usual, we have some tournaments to talk about in the Florida Keys, so let's do that. First one is the Del Brown Permit Tournament, where anglers fly fish on the lower Keys flats for bonefish and permit to earn special awards in this challenge that honors the late angling pioneer Del Brown, who caught and released more than 500 permit off the Keys. That's a lot. Next is the Key West Marlin Tournament, celebrating its 41st year, set for July 19th through the 22nd, and features $50,000 in cash prizes and coincides with the annual Hemingway Days celebration. Then we have the Key West Fishing Tournament, which continues through July 31st with more than 40 species eligible for citations and other awards. And finally, this is a fun one, is the Bartenders Dolphin Tournament in Layton, which is a one-day fun day dolphin tournament open to bartenders and restaurant employees fishing for donated prizes and, of course, good times. For more information on the Keys tournaments, head to flakeys.com. That has to be.
That's a great way for a charter guy that frequents the bar to give back.
Exactly.
Put somebody on your boat and take them out.
There you go. All right, up next we have our Real Legends Central East Region report, and Dave is giving us some Taco Marine new product updates at the CCA Workbench. You got some good stuff over there.
Yeah, we got the new little PV there, and it's scented. It's scented. I can vouch for that.
Booger scented now.
Scented.
All right, that's cute, Dave.
It, huh?
Yeah, very nice.
Very surprising.
Woo.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. Penn, let the battle begin. Alta Equipment Company, where uptime matters. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Discover Crystal River, Florida. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin. Best lures, period. And Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia.
Well, it's time to troll the edge with the Taco Marine new products. And here at the CCA Workbench, Dave, we've seen some really cool stuff from Seasucker, and it looks like they've got another item that we really need to look at.
The Seasucker line and hose hook, and you can put this thing anywhere you want in the boat. You know, if you have some rope or line or some hoses that you want to keep out of the way and tidy up the boat, just stick that sucker any place you want where it's, you know, vertical surface, and you just drape your lines or your ropes or whatever around the hooks in the front there. It also comes, it's going to be used as a cleat. You know, if you want to use it as a temporary cleat or whatever, you can take the hooks off, and it's a built-in cleat shape there. And
Go
you can
around.
you can put it up. You can put it up flat and use it as a cleat, or straight up and
fender
down.
holder.
Correct. Or straight up and down to hold all your lines, your hoses, your electric cords. You know, whatever you have. That 4.5-inch vacuum pump on the back has 120 pounds of strength. You know, with the two hooks. You know, and the integrated cleat. No more drilling. Just comes off. You can put it anywhere you want and take it off in seconds. So you know. Put it anywhere you want.
Anywhere you want.
On a smooth surface.
And where do you find them?
Seasucker.com.
Awesome.
They got all kinds of cool stuff.
And we got another great new bait from Bass Assassin.
These scented, these are scented.
You can smell them.
Saltwater Assassin. These are the little P&V. It's for piss and vinegar. That P&V is what it stands for. It's brand new shape. They got all these different new colors here. We're going to be talking about them. You know, this really cool shape. It's a streamlined shape. So, it can either be a shrimp or a little bait fish, depending on how you want to put it, fish it on a jig head. I would fish it on a jig head probably. That's how I would fish that bait. They got some new jig heads we're going to talk about as well. But they come in a whole bunch of different colors. That's the molted one right there, is it not?
Molting.
They got the red gold shiner, the watermelon red glitter.
This is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
The watermelon slice.
Yeah, these are all colors actually. These are kind of the Florida colors that Rick picked out. He said these would all work well in Florida. They're more natural. The watermelon red glitter and the glow gold, is probably about as fancy as it gets. The Houdini and the molting one there. That's the molting crab.
There's a couple of ways you can fish it. Like you said, you can hop it, so you pop it up and let it fall like a shrimp, like a hopping shrimp. Or you just cast it out and just slowly reel it, like for tarpon.
Right.
You just pull it through the water, just a very, very, very slow, natural presentation, and all of a sudden
Bouncer Smith taught me about that, about those tarpon. They don't like it moving around too much.
And then one last thing you can do with this for redfish and trout inshore, a donkey rig where you rig 2 of them on the same line.
Oh, I
and
gotcha.
they do this kind of an action.
Right.
And I tell you, it's dynamite. Dynamite.
Well, they're also coming out. This is the Saltwater Assassin Pro Elite jig head. Those have a unique little stand up when they hit the bottom. They'll stand right up for you. They have mustad hooks on them. Light for super shallow and heavier for when you want to get deep. They come in 1/16 all the way up to 3/4 ounce. Yeah. And it falls real lifelike action there. It's got a little lifelike head. It's got some stuff on the head and a little red eye, so it makes it look like it's pretty cool little thing. Also, we have the Saltwater Assassin Jig Head Assassin. These are made for wide gap hooks. You can use them if in freshwater as well. Actually, lifelike head again, salt or fresh. Big red eyes and that wide gap because you put big baits on there. You put a big plastic bait on there.
This one's really good for that
shrimp on there.
Artemis shad.
Yes.
Because it's slightly larger, bigger profile than the standard sea shad, and this jig head works really well in conjunction with that Artemis shad.
Right, there you go. Go to Bass Assassin, get you one of those.
All of those. There you go. What else we got?
But not least, we've got the Trident Deluxe Trident 3-rod cluster. 3-rod cluster. I'm going to turn it into a cluster. Maximize, your kite rod placement and usage. If you're using kites, you can put this right in the middle of your boat and fish 3 kites off it. Either that or fish 1 off a kite and 2 off your riggers. Whatever you want to do. Durable, high polished aluminum. It's made out of nice big thick welds on there. There's 3 9 3/4 inch rod holders. They're flared. They'll hold any tackle you put in there, even up to 80-pound tackle.
Nice gimbal pins in the bottom of them.
Gimbal fits in any regular standard rod holder. It's got a nice little eyelet on there if you want to put safety lines. It's got a little eyelet on there you can put safety lines on. And it comes in a nice little mesh bag too. You can rinse it off and store it in this little bag.
Store it all the way. And where do we find those?
TacoMarine.com. It's the Taco Marine Deluxe Trident Rod Holder.
That's what you need for trolling. That's what you need for trolling the edge.
Yes, you do.
Dave, I thought you were going to pull a Lady Liberty pose over there.
Yeah,
but she went for the worms at the nose. Okay, that's fine. All right, well, I see CCA Florida and Tin Cup over there at the workbench, and CCA Florida has partnered with Tin Cup Whiskey in an effort to protect the health, habitat, and sustainability of marine resources through conservation and enhancement of coastal environments. So for every bottle of Tin Cup Whiskey sold in Florida, $1 will go to CCA Florida. Jim, that's pretty cool.
That is really cool. I like
this partnership.
Anytime that you got a company that wants to give back, in my opinion, you need to support that company because there's nobody else doing it. So if they're going to do it, support them.
I will support them,
definitely.
and I will drink whiskey, Tin Cup whiskey. All right, Jim, you have to be used to this by now, so why don't you give your Real Legend Central East region and tell us how we're making memories this weekend.
I'm going to make my Zoom call
Zoom
right
call.
now. There we go.
He's on.
Well, if you guys and gals are out there in the Central East region, you know that the Real Legends region is heating up right now, and this full moon was really good for the Mangrove Snapper, and it's going to continue to be really good for the next month as long as we get clean water like we've had, and you can, get out there and get a bunch of those fish on the offshore reefs and wrecks. I was talking with a couple of the guys that are out of Canaveral, and they have been catching fish up to 10 pounds pretty regularly. Garen Malin on the Sea Venture boat is one of those guys that's been consistently putting good numbers of big mangroves on the board. But that's not the only place you can find them. Those 70 to 140 foot reefs, yes, we get those big ones, but you know what? Any type of bait, like Dave was saying earlier, It can be a shrimp, it can be a fish bites, it can be a piece of pilchard or a cut, whatever. Put it on a hook and get those little fish that are inshore, because those are the fish that we really grew up on when we were little kids, like your children grew up on, Brie. And you know, fishing around docks, rocks, underneath mangroves in particular, mangrove trees. Fantastic place to catch mangrove snapper right now. You just use a little, you know, 1/4 or 1/8 ounce jig head and a little piece of cut bait, and you should be able to find them. And the next species we're going to talk about is the sharks. And sharks continue to be a consistent bite right now, especially on our offshore wrecks. Anglers are getting out there. If you want to target them, there's lemons, sandbars, and bull sharks on a lot of the larger reefs and wrecks right now. These sharks are feeding on any kind of live or cut bait that you want to put down. Stranded cable, 170 to 350 pound test stranded cable typically works really well. You want to keep the sharks from biting through your leader. That's how you're going to be able to do it. Use a pin fathom or maybe a pin squall reel. I like the 40 size. The Pin Carnage 3 rod, rated for 50 to 100 pounds. I'm really falling in love with that for my bottom trips right now. Absolutely love that setup. You can catch those fish anywhere from 15 to, some of those fish are 200 and 250 pound sharks. There's some big ones out there. So there's fine tooth black tips and quite a few others along the beaches as well. Black nose, hammerheads that you can find around the pokey pods. So don't forget those, and you can pitch to those. You can sight cast them in some cases with a Pin Battle 3 in the 6,000 size and some 30 to 40 pound braided line. Once again, you want to use a little bit lighter leader for those, but you can catch those fish along all of the beaches right now throughout the Central East region. I've got a picture here of a typical fine tooth shark, something right in that 20 to 30 pound category, and you can see we're using a nice 7-foot spinning rod to catch that fish with, and an R&R float if you want to hold that bait suspended. Inshore, redfish, the south end of Mosquito Lagoon right now, Pelican Island, Cucumber Island, that whole area is really, really good. Lots of grass in there, and there's a lot of slot-sized fish in there. So if you guys and gals are looking to go do some sight fishing, this is the place to be. Some of the guys are getting 10 to 20 fish in a morning. Live shrimp on a jig head, small croakers or small pigfish are all working really well for those fish right now. Or if it gets a little windy or you're not able to get the fish to bite on a moving bait, switch to a cut bait. A cut mullet or a cut ladyfish is working real good. Put that on a 3/0 to 4/0 size circle hook. And when they are biting artificials, the Saltwater Assassin shads in the Houdini, Mama's 14K, and Texas Roach Color have been working really good. That new little P&V is going to be a hot one out there too. I can't wait to get out there and do some of that in the Mosquito Lagoon this next week. Also, snook bite right now is really good. The snook tides have been strong at Sebastian. A lot of moving water. Bryson Wright gave me a great report recently and said that he was catching a bunch of fish on the incoming tide from the North Jetty at Sebastian using maharas, croakers, and pilchards. The guys that are doing that are hammering the fish. 5 to 10 fish are common on a day from the jetty there. If you're in a boat, you can probably catch 10 or 15. And same thing at Canaveral, same thing at Ponce. I've even found them out on some of the nearshore reefs like the Acan Bottom, some of the wrecks as well. So don't overlook those if you pull up on them. You may catch one of those fish out there. Any of those fish can be found from 30 to sometimes 40 inches right now. And I've got a picture here of a double snook. Oh no, I didn't put that picture in. I put this picture in instead.
That's good. That's good for me.
So this same day, those two guys, the first drop, we pulled 2 fish up that size, but I sent the wrong picture.
You're catching so many fish, you just don't even know. But that's a good sign.
It's a good sign.
It's a good sign.
But that's the typical size snook that you're going to find off the beach right now.
It's beautiful.
And any of those reefs and wrecks, they're on them too because they're out there spawning right now.
Well, it sounds good to me. I'll take it. But let's take a look at your Rodan Marine System hotspots for your Central East region, shall we?
Well, this guy named Jim Ross says that if you're in the Rodan Central East region, you need to look for the snook at Sebastian Inlet inshore. You want to fish some live maharas or croakers on the incoming tide. And then offshore, it's Shark Week, guys and gals. Look for bulls, sandbars, and lemons out there. And of course, any of that high relief structure offshore is going to hold them. Use live or cut baits, and make sure you're using a heavy wire leader so that you can actually land them.
All right, well, we talk about it every week. We want to show our support for Florida's fisheries with a Conserve Florida Fisheries license plate for just $25. Proceeds for the redfish tag support protecting and enhancing Florida's saltwater marine resources, habitat restoration, water quality, and coastal environmental education. Get this beautiful edition at your local DMV or visit redfishtag.com. But you know what? Our Dynapack Southeast and Discover Crystal River Northwest regions have your weekend ready to reel in next. But before we go, I want you to take a look at the QR code code on your screen or right there and scan away right now to get exclusive access to our live audience sign up throughout the end of the season and all of our social media channels. Plus, we'll be uploading new videos on our YouTube page, Captain Rick Murphy. Don't miss it. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by STARTRON. Start, run, and store with STARTRON. Berkeley, your fish, our science. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 35 years. Tin Cup, Mountain Whiskey. The Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. Diamond Fishing Products. Our reputation is on the line. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Strike Zone Fishing.
Welcome back, everyone. Your Dynapack Southeast region has some great inshore and offshore news for us. So let's listen in with Captain Jimbo Thomas. Jimbo.
Hey, Brie, Jim, and Dave. Well, first off, we got plenty of mangrove snapper here in the Southeast region, both inshore and offshore. Now, pretty much any structure will hold these mangroves, and they can be found around any of the bridges up and down the Intercoastal Waterway, as well as the creeks and inlets and all the artificial reefs. Now, Captain Wayne Kahn aboard the Reward Fishing Fleet out of Miami Marina, he catches a lot of mangroves. He tells me that his favorite time to fish for mangroves is from the middle of May through August, and lately they've been finding fish from 1 to 3 pounds with the occasional larger one up to 6 or even 8 pounds. They've been anchoring or drifting live pilchards, cut sardines, and silver sides over the reefs and hard bottom, anywhere from 50 to 60 feet of water. And they like to use 20-pound tackle, 30 to 40-pound mono or fluoro leader, 1/0 to 3/0 circle hooks, and you want to put on just enough lead to hold bottom depending on the current. Now, if those fish are spooky, especially if it's in the daytime, try fishing a little bit lighter leader, and that might get him to bite. And he says he prefers to fish off the moon and says that the bite usually doesn't start until after 9 or 10 o'clock on a lot of the nights. They do a lot of night trips. And he also recommends chumming with cut and chunk baits versus block chum. That keeps a lot of the smaller bait stealers away. Now, I got a photo here. This is Mike Cleveland with the nice daytime mangrove snapper that he caught in Biscayne Bay.
Perfect.
Now, out a little deeper from the mangroves, there's been a lot of mutton snapper being caught. Now, these muttons, they've been on reef and wreck structure in the 120 to 200-foot range. They're being caught on live and cut baits. You want to fish with an extra long leader, 40 to 50-pound mono or fluorocarbon, and connect it to a 3-way swivel, and you want to use enough lead again to hold the bottom. Now, the best baits have been live and cut pilchards, ballyhoo, goggle eyes, and bonita. You want to use a 4/0 to 6/0 circle hook, depending on what size bait you got. Now, if the bite seems to slow down, scaling down on your leader to 25 or even 30-pound test, that might help fool those muttons into biting. And they've been biting both in the daytime and the nighttime, and they've been nice ones. The average size has been in the 10 to 15-pound range. Got another photo here. This is Craig Fountain with a nice mutton snapper. Looks to be about 15 pounds, and I believe he caught that on a pilchard. Now, moving inshore, July is one of the best months of the year to catch a permit, and the fishing has been excellent on both the inside and outside flats of South Biscayne Bay, from Soldier's Key south to Angelfish Creek. You want to look for these permit around the channel edges, rock piles, and hard bottom flats with good moving water, and also around the Arsenicer Keys, Midnight Pass, and along the southwestern shoreline. Now, small live crab, that's the best bait, along with pink skimmer jigs and crab pattern flies. Got another photo here. This is Ed Lyon with a nice permit. He caught this at night while he was tarpon fishing, so there are some permit out in the middle of the bay as well, and that ate a live crab in Biscayne Bay. And then from Lake Worth Inlet south to Government Cut, the snook have been biting really good. I guess they're getting in there on this full moon to spawn. Get out to your local inlet in the evening, and you want to drift live baits on both the incoming and outgoing tide. Just about any good live bait's going to work. Herrings, pilchards, pinfish, croakers, whatever you got in the bait well. You want to fish that live bait on a Jupiter rig with 40 to 50-pound leader and a 5 to 6/0 circle hook. Also, player hawk jigs with soft player hawk jigs and jigs with soft plastic tails bounce along the bottom. Those are also getting bites. And these are some big snooks. Some of these fish have been up to the 25-pound range. And don't forget, snook are catch and release until September 1st.
Well, that's a great report for the southeast region there, Jimbo. I will take your hot spots from here. Captain Jimbo Thomas says, inshore, catch and release snook and tarpon off the beaches or your local inlets. You want to use some live baits or artificial lures will work as well. And you want to fish early or late in the day. And then offshore, anchor up anywhere from the outside reefs in 120 feet of water or out for the muttons and the mangroves. And you want to fish live baits or cut baits on the bottom. You know, I find this really interesting. Jimbo was talking a little bit heavier tackle than what Sarah was talking about. And I wonder if there's a difference in their water quality or if it's just the depth, because Sarah says mangroves were fishing a little shallower, Jimbo was fishing a little deeper, and maybe they can go a little heavier because of that depth.
I wonder. That's a good question. Yeah. Next week we'll ask him. All right, now we're checking in with our Discover Crystal River Northwest Region Captain, Jeff Hageman, who is helping us find some nice table fare this weekend. Go for it, Hag.
Mangrove snapper can be caught throughout my entire region, varying depths from anywhere from 4 feet on out past 120. They like structure, bridges, docks, pilings, wrecks, reefs. They're absolutely great to eat. One of my favorite to put in the fryer. They have great eyesight, so fluorocarbon leader is a must. I'm sure everybody's been talking about that right now. Anywhere from 15 to 30 pound fluorocarbon leader, depending on your water clarity. As light a weight as you can get away with and as small a circle hook as you can get away with, that's what you want to use. Knocker rigs work best for them in the deeper water, and they'll help you feel they won't feel the lead as much when they pick that bait up and take off with it, and give you a couple extra seconds to get a hook into them. With a little slack in your line, that's a little tip for them. Second, as far as baits go, live bait, live shrimp, sardines, small pinfish are hard to beat. A chum bag and cutting up some fresh dead baits and drifting them back to the boat helps a lot. Get them fired up and can bring them right up to the back of the boat on some occasions. The moons in the next couple months will have these fish spawning, so they'll be concentrated. So look for them in that 40-foot region to do their spawn out there. Right now our fish are averaging anywhere from 1 to 3 pounds with some bigger mangs in deeper depths. Moving offshore, Captain Rob Davenport of Big Nasty Charters out of St. Pete reports the red snapper bite. There's plenty of these fish right now out there in anywhere from 130 to 200 feet of water. He's finding them on live bottom and bait stacks, and any kind of limestone structure out there is going to hold these fish right now. Anything that's got bait on it. You want to look for the bigger ones on top of it. I always mention this. All those bigger red snapper will be on top of the water column. They'll be above the smaller red snapper. So as you're looking at your bottom machine and you're marking these fish as they're coming up, the bigger ones are going to be on top, so drop your depth down accordingly. Bottom rig with anywhere from 60 to 80 pound fluorocarbon leader, a 6 to 8 aught circle hook, and anywhere from 6 to 8 ounces of lead works best. Squid has been the best bait right now, but he's also catching them on butterfly jigs. Moving on inshore, Captain Mario Costello, a tall-tailed charter out of Ozella Keys Marina, reports big schools of redfish right now back in the backcountry of Ozella and Crystal River. Look for the schools, anywhere from a dozen to 50 fish in each school. They're working the open pockets in the mangroves. The first half of the incoming tide, he's using live select shrimp on an 1/8 jig head with 15-pound leader. They've been very leader shy right now. The water is extremely crystal clear up there right now. So drop down to 15 and you'll get more bites, he says. The redfish right now have been averaging anywhere from 25 to 30 inches. Moving up the coast into the Panhandle, Captain Lee from Port St. Joe says slower bite than usual this week with the high temperatures. Made it a little bit more difficult to find a good bite, but he says the deeper water right now has been proving the best chance for redfish. Get off the edges of the grass flats, and that 4 to 6 feet of water has been producing and proven to be a decent bite out there. Live pinfish and alewives, which are sardines, 2/0 circle hook on a bottom rig with an 18 inches of fluorocarbon leader has been working best. He says fish early in the morning on the incoming tide if possible. That's what he's doing his best right now. And I've got a couple of photos from Captain Mario and Captain Lee of some beautiful West Coast redfish.
Boy, they sure are, Jeff.
Very nice.
What else you got for us?
I got a scallop report from you guys. far, the scallops reports I've been getting are kind of mixed. Some easy limits, some having a little tougher time scalloping anywhere from 4 to 6 feet of water. Mixed grass is where everybody's finding them, in that turtle, the eel, and some sandy patches is where most people are finding them right now in that 4 to 6 foot of water. Remember to fly those dive flags, and when you're around other boats, make sure you're at idle, and idle your boat out safely away from them before you jump on plane again. And I've got a photo here of Captain Dave Dennison with his beautiful lady with a nice mess of scallops.
I tell you, hey Jeff, real quick, last year the scallops were so close to the shoreline that you basically could get them in ankle deep water, it seemed like. And this year they're a little farther out. Is it a water temperature thing? What makes those things move around?
I think it's water temperature right now. We're so hot and so quick. We got so hot so fast. I think they're getting out in that cooler water. I have got reports that there are some in some shallow water. In the lower part of the region, the little Pasco County region they opened up, there are catching some in some shallow water, but most of those scallops right now are in 4 to 6. And they're bigger again this year. Last year we had some really big scallops. You'd clean the meat and almost get a quarter-sized piece of meat, and this year it's proven to be the same thing.
Well, those are some
bigger the scallops.
Man,
bigger the shooters.
I'm like Rick. I don't get out of the boat much.
Right.
But I will get out of the boat to pick those things up because it is so much fun. It is so much fun. And Jeff's lucky.
Underwater Easter egg hunt.
Yes. Jeff's lucky because you live there and you get to do it all the time. Like at the end of a fishing day, you can just say, hey, let's just jump in the water for a little bit, and you cool off if nothing else.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, definitely.
Well, Jeff, thanks so much for that great report. I'm going to take your Ozello Keys Marina hotspots for the Northwest region for here. Captain Jeff says, snook along the beaches and passes, you want to use some live sardines and pinfish, and you want to free line them or use a little bit of weight if you need to keep them down. And then offshore, gag grouper from 75 to 180 feet of water over the rock piles and ledges. You want to use some cut bait or some live baits. Both seem to be working pretty well on those. And the knocker rig tip he gave about when the fish bites it, you can give it, if you fish a knocker rig with your tip high and then you feel the bite and then you drop down to it, it allows for him to pull it away from the weight. And you can, and then when it comes tight, bang. It's a solid hookup on that circle hook.
The boat. All right, our last area to explore is up in the Seasucker Panhandle region. So stay hooked to find out what we're helping you get to the boat again on the Florida Insider Fishing Report. I can't wait for our scallop trip.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. Island Lures, Tournament Tackle, the IGFA, every fish, every water, every angler since 1939. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy, fishing for adventure. Real Legends, available at bellsflorida.com. Dynapack, your partner on the road. And Taco Marine, troll the edge.
Dan Benson from POWERPOLE Shallow Water Anchors. Today I want to go over our entire anchor lineup. Let's start with our simple POWERPOLE HD or UL manual spike. You can stick it in the ground, tether it to the boat, kayak, paddleboard, whatever you have. When you want to run that spike with a wireless remote, you can put it in our POWERPOLE Micro, which is great for any boat under 1,500 pounds. From there, we step up to our first hydro offering, which is our Sportsman. The Sportsman's available in a matte black finish, 8-foot depth, our best-selling size, and our best-selling color. When we get into the Pro Series, that's our ultralight anchor, really built for the technical poling skiffs. It's available in a 4-foot, 6-foot, and 8-foot depth. Our top-of-the-line anchor is our POWERPOLE Blade, available in 8-foot and 10-foot models. This is what you see on the fastest bass boats on the market, the most high-end bay boats. For more information, go to powerpole.com, and that's your POWERPOLE tip.
Sounds good. POWERPOLE's got something for everyone.
Everybody.
Yep. All right, we're seeing what the structures in the Seasucker Panhandle region have for us with Captain Pat Deneen. So Pat, close us out.
Hey Brie, I tell you what, mangroves are caught both in inshore and offshore in the Panhandle. Smaller but keeper mangroves are caught inshore, while the bigger ones are caught in the Gulf. But either place, they're definitely going to be structure oriented. and definitely one of the tougher fish to trick into eating your bait. So stealth's going to go a long way so use light leaders, a small hook, and a good bait. And chumming also goes a long way towards getting these snappers into the feeding frame of mind. Small pilchards and menhaden, baby pinfish. I've heard those little small baby pinfish for those inshore, those bay mangroves are the way to go. But also live shrimps, all great baits. Gulfside mangroves, also known as black snapper, can run as big as 8 or 9 pounds, while inside the bays, a 15 or 16-inch mangrove snapper is a good one. And late July and August, September, great time for bay mangrove snapper fishing. That's when it really heats up. But offshore, the mangroves are there year-round. But staying inshore, the tarpon fishing continues to be really good right now. The water is super clean. The winds and seas have been very calm, which are perfect conditions for tarpon fishing. The fish are migrating just off that first bar. And additionally, there's been redfish, sharks, bonitas, Spanish mackerel, even dolphins, and stray sailfish cruising the bar. So it's really fishy right now close to the beach. Minimal tackle is required, basically a live bait, 60-pound leader, and a circle hook. If you want to go artificial, go with swim baits. And there's been some really big fish around the past few days, with plenty well over 100 pounds, some pushing 200 pounds. And there's a live action photo of Rusty Watley from Birmingham with a frisky tarpon off Fort Walton Beach. That was just as the sun was coming up, so the lighting was really nice for that picture.
That is beautiful. It's a framer.
Love it.
Yeah, man. Hey, moving offshore, Brie and Jim, the red snapper. Everybody's fishing for them and catching plenty of red snappers. Deeper spots at Carolina rig, baited with live cigar minnows, herrings, or sweetos is the way to go. You want to use 40 or 60-pound leader. Shallower spots, especially the more precious spots, chumming and free lining a chunk bait or a distressed live bait is the way to go. And you want to lighten up that leader, use 30 to 40-pound test. If you don't have a lot of spots, finding spots not too difficult. There's plenty of publicly funded concrete piles, fish havens, barges, etc. to begin a red snapper search. And a lot of those places are holding some really good quality fish. And there's some pretty big fish being caught. I've seen plenty of 20-plus pounders brought to the dock this past week. There's a photo of Roger Bedford from Montgomery. He and his friends had an awesome day fishing with my brother, Double D, on a shore lure out of Destin this past week. They had, that red snapper, that nice scamp, and a whole mess of other red snappers behind. And then finally offshore, there's the dolphin fishing has been really good, and there's some really good quality fish around right now. Offshore, in deep water, there's been some 50-plus pounders being caught, while inshore and nearshore, a bunch of chickens and swingers are being caught. The water is green at the spur, but if you find where the green pushes up onto the blue, or if you find where floaters or grass, you're going to be into the dolphin, and those same conditions are great for wahoo. You want to troll small plastics, ballyhoo and ballyhoo skirt combinations, but you also want to have some spinning rods ready to cast live baits and jigs if you happen upon some floating debris or sargassum rafts that are really holding some fish. Pull in those trolling rigs, break up the spinning rod rigs, and have a good time.
Gotcha, Pat. Well, now, Brie, we were talking about where are the dolphin at. There's some small dolphins, just not much going on.
Yep.
But we found where they were at. Pat's got them.
Well,
Pat's got the dolphin.
There's some big ones offshore right now, Jim.
Well, thanks,
Pat's
Pat.
got everything up there, man.
Well, thanks, Pat. We're taking your blue water outrigger hotspots for the Panhandle region from here, buddy. Pat says inshore, the temperature's getting hot and night, and you want to fish at night and fish the docks and lights for trout and redfish using small live baits. Perdido Key Intracoastal has been really good lately. Is offshore, daytime sword fishing has been extremely good this summer and continues to be solid. You want to fish with squid, strip baits, or line blue runners will actually work really well too. 1,200 to 1,600 feet of water, and want to fish where those variations in the bottom are at, because you get those upwellings coming off of them.
Right, it's been perfect sorting weather for sure lately.
Yes.
We got the chickens, we got the swingers, we got the gaffers. So far, we're just doing with the chickens and the swingers, unfortunately, in our region at least. All right, Jim, our job here is almost done, and I think our anglers are ready to get on the mangroves this weekend, but we still have to tell everyone what we're reeling in next week. It's my personal favorite. We've been talking about it all night, kinda, so stay with us and we'll be right back. All right, next week we're talking Dolphin.
We're talking your fish.
Dolphin, my favorite fish. You know, hopefully the reports next week, they're just gonna all of a sudden show up.
Either that, or we're gonna go bum rush Pat Deneen's place out in the Panhandle. We're all going that way, right?
Yeah, bum rush Panhandle region. Okay, so this past weekend it was a long 4th of July holiday weekend. I heard your sons almost blew up your house.
Yeah,
I don't know what you did.
Everybody else in my neighborhood almost blew up my house, but you blew it up because you had a birthday.
I did have a birthday. It was so much fun. We went fishing 2 days, caught a bunch of dolphins.
Nice.
You know, spent time on the water, which was a perfect birthday present for me.
That's the way to spend a birthday.
I swear. People are like, what do you want to do? All I want to do is fish. That's it. Not that I don't do it that often.
I just ate meat and sweated a lot.
That's cute.
Because it's been hot.
Yeah.
It's been hot.
Africa.
And when you eat a lot of meat, you get those meat sweats too.
Well,
you know,
and that's the great thing about the nighttime bite is 15. You know, you can get out there and get up to 15-pound snappers on the nighttime bite right now.
There you go.
And it's 20 degrees, 30 degrees cooler than it is in the daytime.
And they don't
We're
make you
doing
sweat
a birthday
like,
shot.
prime rib.
Hey,
belated birthday shot. Here you go.
This is for
See you guys
Bree's
next week.
birthday and for the dolphin to come.
Here we go. Cheers.